All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Saturday, January 25th, and we have a massive 14 NBA game slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'll give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye down on the pinned comment of this video. That'll take you to all of my final plays. So I'm actually rolling with myself today, absolutely free, down in the pinned comment. 14-game NBA slate. We'll try and go through some of these with a little bit of pace so it's not an hour-long video. Let's get into it. All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I tell you guys I'm a dummy all the time. They don't suck. They've just been sucking. Get them down to -3, 4 more juice than Jose Canseco in his prime. Tell me you're new without telling me you're new. So don't go jumping down my throat in the comments, right? If you want to fade me, or if you do want to ride me, this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, right? And remember, more chins, more wins. All right, in terms of how we did yesterday, it was a minimal profitable night, but a profitable night nonetheless. We do go 3-1. I say minimal because look at the unit sizes we were rocking with yesterday. 0.4 win for the Blazers. That was a good look accidentally. We took an alternate line. DeAndre Ayton gets ruled out, and then all of a sudden it's like, that line doesn't look all that tremendous, right? And then all those injuries, including LaMelo Ball on the Charlotte side of things, come in, and the Blazers ended up, I think, closing at like -1.5. So good to see that. This Blazers team don't look now somehow is on a roll. DeAndre Ayton obviously didn't play. We just talked about that, so that ends up being avoided. And then Jared Allen, double-double, our sole loss. He had 8 points, 10 rebounds. I think he went 4 of 8 from the field. So honestly, kind of still like the look, but nonetheless our only loss there. And then Zach Edey, loved that look. And you know what? Only thing we did wrong there was kind of go light on him. I thought it was a good matchup. No Ja Morant, right? And that ends up being a really good look there too. So like I said, some of these profitable days are few and far between. We do have one yesterday, 3-1 night, but again, no full unit plays. Honestly, not even any half unit plays, right? A very light day, which we may do with some of our plays today because I have a feeling it's going to be tough to be kind of conservative today. There's so many games. We'll probably have a decent amount of plays, but again, maybe we'll rock with, just some lighter units so that at risk the total amount isn't all that crazy. In terms of our ride of the day, when in doubt, we toss it over to Jacob, one of the ride of the day goats. Tyrese Maxey, under 10.5 rebounds plus assists. Cha-ching. He finishes with 7 and 3, I think it was. So, Jacob, we had to sweat this one out. But if you guys don't remember, Jacob, one of the absolute goats of the ride of the day. He got it at 109. We ended up getting it at right around 130. But nonetheless, Maxey, a 7 and 3 night. Let me double check to see what that stat line was. Yeah, had 29 points, 4 of 8 from 3, 7 and 3 in terms of assists and rebounds. So yeah, who cares if it's on the hook, right? We still take the cash there. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, it's simple. Just use that hashtag ride of the day in the comments for a couple reasons. First and foremost, we jump on one person's play each and every day. Give a shout out in the next video, win or loss. You also get a shout out over on our Twitter/X, which is right here, FGuyBoston, and a shout out on the Guy Boston Sports site with the final plays, right? If you win, we continue to ride with your plays. So we're going to ride with Jacob again today, as long as the play is within the odd range, right? If you lose, we do have to talk about it. We drop the womp womp. You still get the shout out, but it's an L, right? But also, even though we're riding with Jacob today, get those plays down in the comments because those help out so many people. Jacob, for example, right? It's been a while since we've had him as a ride of the day, but he's dropping his plays in the comments and he's throwing out some really sharp plays, helping a lot of people out. So if you think that you got some good plays, some winners down there, drop them in the comments. And make sure you're showing some love. If you find a play in the comments, tell that person in the comments, hit the like button in the comments, all that stuff. Speaking of which, hit the like button on this video. Hit that subscribe button as well. Like I mentioned, some of these games we may try and go through a little quicker if I don't have, the strongest of opinions in it because we do have a lot to get to in today's show. So enough of this rambling. Let's ramble some more. Let's jump into it. Like I said, like button, subscribe button. Appreciate the heck out of you guys. Let's dive into this one. This is the Paris games. San Antonio taking on Indiana. San Antonio wins this one drastically last time, right? Wembanyama goes off for his home crowd. This is 140 to, they won by 30, and they were underdogs in this spot. Now, I still do think, based on what we saw there, San Antonio looks like the far better team, but that had a lot to do with, I'm going to say, like the excitement of, playing in Paris and that type of thing. Not that I think, there's no chance that San Antonio does what they did last time, and they can't do that again. I would say that, like I've been saying, when two teams play each other so frequently, whether it's those back-to-back games or, 2 in 3 days, that type of thing, I've been comfortable just looking at the opposite side of what happened before. So I'm going to lean Indiana here. I don't know if I get it down myself, to be completely honest, because this Indiana team had been playing good basketball, but their offense, I didn't really love what I was seeing. I mean, we liked Miles Turner in that game. I do like him again today, but he missed so many shots, and Wemby, forced him to miss so many shots, and, it didn't feel like an absolute sweat that entire game, right? And he finished on the hook for L there with the points, hit the threes for us. So I would look kind of similar to what I looked at last game. Nothing really changes for me, which isn't always the best situation, right? I do believe this is moving towards, lower line. So if you like San Antonio at this number, we're recording this fairly early, maybe jump on as soon as you can. And if you like Indiana, maybe wait a little bit. You'll probably get a money line or some good odds on the money line at some point. Total-wise, this one went way up and over. Right now, our prediction model has this set to a 116, 115 win for San Antonio. So that is under the number. I'm going to lean towards the under. Like I said, I'm just kind of doing the contrarian side of what happened last time. And then, like I said, I'd still look at Miles Turner, maybe his threes or Tyrese Halliburton's threes, but I feel like I saw Miles Turner's threes juice through the moon, so those wouldn't be worth it anymore to me. All right, Minnesota taking on Denver, 3 p.m. start here Eastern time. One thing to note here, Ant-Man, Anthony Edwards listed as questionable. That's obviously going to massively factor into this game if he does not play, right? So, we'll keep an eye. I think it's an illness, so, sometimes with the NBA injuries, I never really know what to make of it. When it's like a leg injury or something, sometimes you can say he probably won't play because it's a leg injury. When it's an illness, it's like, well, how sick are you? Are we talking like, just cough, or is he seriously sick? And we've seen some guys play pretty well when they have the flu, right, in history. So, nonetheless, we'll keep an eye on that. Right now, Minnesota 4.5-point dogs in this one. This Denver team, we can give them some credit for the basketball they've been playing, right? 8-2 in their last 10 games. They have some good wins in there. Their two losses in their last 10, Celtics and Houston. So it's almost like we can give them a little bit of a leash there as well. Minnesota in flux, I would say. They're playing some competitive games, but taking L's. Memphis, Cleveland, right? They beat, they lost to Memphis by, they lost to Memphis, you can speak of, right? You lost to Memphis by, I believe it was 4 points combined within, like 10 days of each other. And then, they've beaten New Orleans, depleted Orlando team. They did beat the Clippers, so they have some good wins and whatnot. But to me, this Denver team's kind of rolling. Head-to-head action between these two squads. You have Minnesota won a close one last time out as well. So I do think Denver has a little bit of a revenge narrative factor that could be built in here as well. So I'm going to lean towards Denver. I do think it's going to be a close game. So if this thing gets outside of, 4.5, like if Anthony Edwards is ruled out and then it's Denver minus 7.5, 6.5, something like that, I don't think I like it obviously as much. But even if Ant-Man plays, getting Denver inside the 5 points here may be where I take a peek. In terms of what we have from a total perspective here, so 228, and we have two teams in which the pace of both, I don't know if you can necessarily put your finger on the pulse and completely be accurate. You have Denver, who was playing very fast. Now within the last 10 games, they're actually a bottom half of the league pace team at 17. And Minnesota, who's been fairly slow-paced all year, but again, they have the ability to go out there and drop 115, 120 on you. I do think that the defense most likely will prevail. We have, a team in which, Denver likes to score in the paint. Well, Minnesota's defense starting to get a lot better in the paint. I think in the last 3 games, they've struggled a tad, but nonetheless, still a team that's fairly good at, or starting to be good at scoring, defending, scoring in the paint. And then the Nuggets on the other side, their defense in the paint could use some work, but if Anthony Edwards is out and I guess that type of thing, then sure, then that helps an under. And throw in the fact that this Minnesota team still prefers to shoot the 3 ball. Don't get confused by the fact that they're shooting a lot in the paint. They scored a lot of their points by the 3 ball. So Denver's perimeter defense hopefully kind of stays intact there. Player prop wise, nothing that I'm over the moon about right now. If we find anything that we want to add in, we'll go ahead and add those in when it comes time to the final plays, and we'll give a little bit of a blurb if we need to. Real quick, guys, as I'm putting this together afterwards, I realized, like I say in some videos with these big slates, that I am talking a mile a minute. It does kind of start to slow down. I think I just got off to the races kind of hot, so I recognize it, and I apologize for speaking so fast. You can't control me sometimes, you know what I mean? But just letting you know that it does slow down a little bit, but maybe we're just excited for a 14-game NBA slate. All right, we got the Mavs in Dallas here taking on the Celtics. In terms of the injury report right now, Derek White listed as questionable. We had him last game pretty big, and what do you have, 3-3, so that was kind of brutal. We have Klay Thompson listed as a game-time decision. Luka still out, Najee Marshall out, Derek Lively out, Powell out, some of the same injuries we've been seeing, right? Exum out. So this is a spot in which I do think the injuries are going to matter. I mean, Derek White being out tells me that there's going to be a decent amount of usage to go around. Not like he had the best game against the Lakers. Like I said, he kind of let us down, but I don't mind the idea of the Celtics offense, guys maybe like Drew Holiday having a little bit of an uptick, which his play is very dependent on the guys around him, obviously, right? And I've even seen some trade rumors floating around about him. But overall, without Derek White, the last time that happened, which was back in early January, Drew Holiday had 19 points. In his last 10 games without Derek White, we're dating back to last season, he's averaging 12.8 points without him. His point line right now is just 9.5. This season, he had 4 points against Cleveland without Derek White, but then 19, and he played a similar amount of minutes. He shot the ball 12 times. So I do think Drew Holiday could be a look for maybe even like a points and assist line without Derek White. Let's see if we can find his numbers at over the last 10 without Derek White. Points plus assists, averaging 18.7 without Derek White, dating back to last year. So I think he can get a little bit more usage. But in terms of where we're going from a spread spot here, I am biased towards the Celtics. We know that, but I do think that at some point they have to click. This Dallas team, I will give them a little bit of credit for the basketball that they've been playing. Have they been, churning out the most wins? No, but if you look at their games, like they're very competitive. They haven't. You'd have to go back a couple weeks here to see a blowout game, and that was against Denver, right? And I think that was in Dallas, if I'm not mistaken. But nonetheless, they are playing, competitive. They beat OKC twice in the same, 4-game stretch, which is good for them. But I think the Celtics kind of sure up here, like they should. And again, hey, I'm a Celtics fan. I'm a little bit biased, but give me them minus the 8 points. Total sitting at the 222.5 number. I like this to go over, especially if no Derek White's there. Like, he's a huge part of the Celtics defense. So yeah, if there's no Derek White, I don't mind this going over. I think the Dallas perimeter defense is starting to show some of their flaws, right? And you throw in the fact that their interior defense could use some work too. You could target some guys inside, which if the Celtics say, hey, you know what, we've been dicking around playing some bad basketball, let's make it easy on ourselves and take it to the hoop, I think that's kind of the move there. But again, Drew Holiday for a potential player prop look, as well as the Celtics, and looking at the over as well. All right, this next one is a little interesting, and I'll tell you why. We just added in, so if we jump into our dashboard, and we'll tell you guys how to get access to this dashboard in just a bit, but if we jump into our dashboard, and I can zoom in for you guys here as well. So we just added something in yesterday. I don't know if I'm focusing on it a little bit too much, but it's right here. The catch and shoot and the pull-up shot designation for both teams, and then their defenses against within the last 10 games, right? As we look at this, Miami, definitely a team that likes the catch and shoot. Okay, well, defensively, Brooklyn actually covers that fairly well, right? And then not all that few. They have the eighth in terms of score percentage ranking when it comes to pull-up offense. Brooklyn's actually very good at stopping that as well. And you can see here, Miami, where are they shooting a lot of their shots from? The three-point line. So both catch and shoots, both pull-ups could be a spot in which Brooklyn says, let's play some defense there. So yeah, I'm not like all over Miami laying 9 points on the road. I'll sound the cycle alert alarm. I'm going to lean towards Brooklyn. And like I said, maybe it is that we're liking and infatuated by the new thing that we added into the dashboard yesterday, which, by the way to get access to this dashboard is over on GuyBostonSports.com. That's where the final play link in the pinned comment will take you. You head over. This is the home screen right here. You head over. Let's see if we can get the right folder up. Boom. You head over. Members area, NBA dashboard. We're logged in right now, so it's going to pop up right away. If you are not logged in, you will have to, but you get this each and every day. You can open this up, zoom in, print out, whatever you want to do, but each and every game broken out from a visual perspective. We have the team's rankings in terms of, points per game, offensive efficiency, all that, rebounding, assists. We have their projected starting lineups and our formulated, based on an algorithm, projected stats that we have for them. Defense versus position, isolation, team shooting method, team shooting percentages, trends against the number, and now we just built in the catch and shoot and pull up numbers there as well. So yeah, maybe we are, again, that's GuyBostonSports.com right over here, members area. If you're not signed in, it's going to be very simple. It's going to say, hey, you want a membership, pick one of these, and they're very, very, very cheap in terms of how much work goes into this. But like I said, this isn't supposed to be a cash cow for us. It's supposed to get it in the hands of most people as possible. You can get $4.99 a month if you want both NFL and NBA and MLB when it comes around. But anyways, back to what we're saying here. Kind of like Brooklyn. Now, they're super injured. I do understand that. And Miami, to me, has been playing somewhat of, respectable basketball, but they've only won 4 of their last 10 games. They're 3-7 against the number. They've had some of these big numbers and really hasn't worked out for them. Like, if you were to look back in their entire last 10, right? They've only covered this line 9 points, like 3 of their last 10 and 1 of their last, I think it's 7 or 8. So it's like, yeah, Brooklyn, as bad as they are, they could cover this. 4 of their last 7 games, if you gave them +9, they would have covered. And again, maybe I'm infatuated by the new feature we have within our dashboard, but they should stop a predominant way that Miami scores. So give me Brooklyn, as crazy as we sounded the psycho alert alarm, as well as a probable, a spot of that I'd look at is being the under. I could see this being, a 107 to 100 type of a game in which Miami ends up winning because they are the better team, but Brooklyn plays some defense, right? And I am going to hold off on player props here because, again, and I'm just being transparent with you guys, we built that new tool. It's the new toy. We're excited about it. I'm like, oh, Tyler Hero pull-ups, Duncan Robinson spot-ups. Let's take their unders. We don't know if we want to, go full-fledged and base everything off of one little but cool addition to the dashboard. All right, Orlando taking on Detroit. Are we seeing a healthy Orlando? Jalen Suggs, listed as questionable. Goga Batadze, listed as questionable. Franz Wagner, no injury designation. KCP, no injury designation. Paolo Banchero, no injury designation. Here we do have Cole Anthony and Gary Harris. Cole Anthony's listed as questionable. Gary Harris still out here. But a fairly healthy Orlando team, and it's been a long time since we could even come close, like that close to uttering those words, right? So if you're an Orlando fan, you're probably excited. Their brand of basketball lately has been, let's play as good as defense as we can, but the offense has just been struggling, right? They've scored 100 or less points in 5 straight games. In the last 10 games here, the highest they've scored is 106. So this offense is in desperate need of Franz Wagner to kind of pick it up, right? Of Paolo Banchero to get going. I think Franz had, 20 points in... was it 20 minutes? No, 20. He played not that many minutes. I think he played like 23 minutes, 25 in that range, but he had 20 points. So it's like, okay, he looks like he's hitting the ground running, which we kind of saw Banchero do as well. Last time these two squads played was back in January. Detroit won 105-96, obviously a very injured Orlando team. They also played in kind of mid-November in Orlando, who was also injured at that time, but did have Franz Wagner, just no Banchero. Franz had 30 points against them, and they won 111-100. That was in Orlando. So I wouldn't be surprised if Orlando kind of gets their stuff together here. But unfortunately, I'm still going to look at Detroit, who I've really respected their basketball as of late, and they're getting points. Even though it's only 2.5, I'm going to look at Detroit. So I made the argument that, Orlando's should be starting to fit like a glove and all these pieces coming back, but I still think this Detroit team's playing some good basketball, all without Jaden Ivey, which is crazy. So yeah, crazily enough, I could see an Orlando argument here, but Detroit to me should be able to kind of do what Orlando does, but in a more consistent way, like defend the paint. Okay, Orlando's been phenomenal at that, right? Detroit is a very good in the paint defense. Their perimeter defense has also been super good recently. Now, they played Phoenix, Houston, and Atlanta in their last 3 games, so take this with a grain of salt, but the number 1 3-point defense over the last 3 games. I'm giving them a little bit of credit for that, and they do one thing that I don't necessarily sit here and say Orlando can do. Detroit can run. Like, they can win some of these high-scoring games, just like when they beat Atlanta by 10 points, right? So that may be somewhat of a superpower here. So I'm going to lean towards Detroit and the over in this spot. When it comes to player props, I think I want to target, Cade Cunningham. He's going to have a ton of usage in this game, obviously. And Orlando right now, in the last 7 games, allowing the 18th most amount of points to the point guard position, kind of middle of the pack in rebounds, middle of the pack of 3-pointers. So if we look at Cade Cunningham's lines, we can even look at him versus, Orlando. We can give you some of that. So his points right now is at 24.5. He's gone 32 and 29 in his last 2 games. Last time he played Orlando, he only had 19, so that's not the best, but he shot the ball 14 times. This guy on the season's averaging over 20 attempts per game. In his last 10 games here, he's averaging 21 attempts. So if he's going to shoot that many times, he should be able to score 25 points, right? We can even look at him from a threes perspective. Right now, he's sitting at just 1.5. Now, it is fairly juiced at -150, but a lot of these books have it at -170, -174. So I don't mind this spot. Last time he played Orlando, didn't have the best scoring night, right? but he hit 4 threes. So this could be a spot in which we consider Orlando, especially when I said they do have a good paint defense, perhaps, and they do have a perimeter defense. Perhaps Cade's going to be there being like, I don't want to go down low and take on that paint defense. So give me Cade Cunningham, either his points, maybe his PRA, or P, points plus rebounds, as well as his three-pointers made. There's definitely a chance we could see some Cade in the action today, especially with a game in which, I think that they could try and up the tempo, because that should be, in my opinion, the game script and their superpower against a slow Orlando team, and throw in the fact that, this is a close game spread-wise, so we should see a lot of back and forth. All right, before we continue on with this massive slate, how many times can I mention how big the slate is in this video? I wanted to talk to you guys about sleeper picks. They have a Steph Curry 0.5 points line tonight. But again, like I've been telling you guys, the best deal is to play 5, get 55 into your account. And it's not just, hey, here's 55 to do whatever you want with. They do it in a really cool way. You get 11 separate $5 entries, free entries. So you give them $5. You place an entry for $5. Even if that entry wins, you get that payout, right? But then you get 11. My fingers can't even count up to 11. Maybe yours can. 11 $5 entries to roll with absolutely free because you played that $5 lineup. Check out the link down in the description as well as the pinned comment. Sleeper is absolutely awesome. I've been using them for over 2 years. We've been partnered with them for a long time now as well. One of my favorite DFS apps out there. Go check it out. Link in the description as well as the pinned comment. All right, back to the second half of this slate. Charlotte taking on the Pelicans here. Now, this is one where I'm not overly, in love with, I guess. You have New Orleans, who's coming off of a loss yesterday to Memphis, though they did play that pretty tight to some degree, but obviously they were injured, so is Memphis, so it's not really a good depiction of either team. Charlotte coming off of a big loss to Portland. 3.5 points is not exactly... we don't know if LaMelo's going to play or Bridges is going to play. Sure. If they play, I guess I would say that maybe there's a chance we could look at Charlotte, but if DeJounte plays, Zion Williamson may be coming back here as well, which I'm not sure. He was out for conditioning last game. I don't mind them minus 3.5, you know what I mean? Now, if you look at the minutes played yesterday, Charlotte, their starters, who aren't even really their starters, played right around the 30-minute mark. Williams played, 31 minutes, but we didn't see LaMelo play. We didn't see Miles Bridges play, and if you look at New Orleans, right, their game against Memphis, we saw Trey Murphy played 33 minutes. McCollum played 34 minutes. Murray played 32. So we do have some guys that played a decent amount because that game was a little bit more competitive, right? So there's an angle to get to Charlotte here because they might have a fresh LaMelo if he plays, a fresh Miles Bridges. But to me, Zion Williams should be back, which he can definitely attack the paint against this Charlotte squad, right? So, I guess I'm going to lean towards New Orleans because I do think even though they're on a back-to-back, you have Zion, DeJounte Murray, CJ McCollum. I think you got a little bit more talent there, especially if LaMelo doesn't roll in this one yet again. In terms of what we have from a total, it's sitting at 228.5 right now. I think this one finishes right around in the 225 to 226 number, so a very thin lean towards the under for me in this one. They are on back-to-backs here. Charlotte at home this season has hit the under in 28% of their games, and then throw in the fact that they're on a back-to-back, the over in 28%. So what is that? 72% of their games have gone under, right? And then when they're on a back-to-back, the over is cash in just 16.7%. So a lot of unders when they're on back-to-backs. All right, Atlanta taking on Toronto. This is one where I'm trying not to overthink it. Everything that I'm looking at, in all honesty, is screaming Atlanta. They shoot a ton in the paint, right? They should be able to score in the paint. They shoot plenty of threes when they want to. They should be able to score from 3 this game. Toronto's offense is all about scoring in the paint. Now, Atlanta's definitely been a lot worse defensively lately, but still they do have the ability, especially I like Okongwu down there, right? So, and what did we just see? Toronto won outright last game, right? In Atlanta, they're playing the same matchup here. This just screams Atlanta to me. They're due for the win. They fit into the mold that I like to go by, which isn't always the best idea, but it's been working this year of, when you just saw a team, the opposite result happens. So, yeah, give me Atlanta minus. I think you can get 3.5s out there as of right now. Taking a peek at the injury report, we do want Trae Young, obviously, to play. Jalen Johnson's already ruled out, but again, if we could only score in the paint against Toronto, that would make me sort of a little bit hesitant, right? But the fact that, we could see some perimeter play, maybe a DeAndre Hunter look could be good, Trae Young look could be good. We cashed big on Okongwu last game because I liked his spot. Like I said, he's a little bit more, of a athletic type player than Jakob Poeltl. Most people are, even though Poeltl can be a beast, right? We jumped on his over 14.5 points before we heard any injury news and whatnot and got plus, I think it was plus 125. It is plus 100 for 14.5 again today. that could be something I consider, but I might even just kind of sit here and roll the dice potentially on a Okongwu double-double. That's at plus 110 right now, and how I kind of arrived at that, if we look at his rebound line, it's at 9.5, okay, for minus one, what is it on books? Minus 130, so a little bit juiced to the over, which is a good thing, right? And then if we move his points line down to 9.5, it's minus 400. So essentially, we're realistically just looking for his normal rebound line to cash, but we're getting the plus 110 odds versus that minus 130. Does that make sense? So that's kind of how I'm processing it in my brain. Who knows if that's the best way to go about doing it, but that is what I'm going to look at. Again, he had it last game, so give me Atlanta as well as Okongwu. In terms of what we have from a total perspective, now, last time they played, which was very, very recent here, it was a 122 to 119 game. I'm gonna flip it on its head. I'm gonna look at something like maybe a slight lean towards the under. That's what I'd say. I could see a final score being like 116 to 111, right, in favor of Atlanta, which that comes actually, that's not really a slight lean towards the under. If we have that projected there's almost 8 points. So yeah, I do like an under in this spot. All right, New York taking on Sacramento. This is a very interesting game to dive into here, and we'll talk about why. One, we do want to see the injury report kind of roll out here. We have De'Aaron Fox game time decision, Josh Hart game time decision. Obviously, Fox being a massive piece to focus on there. But I think this game is very interesting because you have New York, who loves to score in the paint, right? Well, Sacramento's been a pretty damn good paint defense this entire season, honestly. Like, that's been one of their things that they've been very good at. Then you have Sacramento, who's been shooting a lot of mid-range and shooting a lot of threes. New York is very good at covering the mid-range, and nobody in the last 10 games has shot more mid-ranges than Sacramento. Makes a little bit of sense when you think about their, Malik Monk, DeMar DeRozan, even De'Aaron Fox to some degree, right? So it does make a lot of sense. But New York, weirdly enough, one of the best mid-range defenses this season. You have a slow New York team up against Sacramento, who's they've been playing at the number one pace over the last 10 games. So a lot of things that seem like which side is going to weigh more, right? 6 points doesn't scream like it's all that much, right? But I do think that, if Sacramento's three balls get going, I think we could see some nice play from them, like Malik Monk, pull-up shooter like him should it. Like, this is a bad New York team in terms of defending that pull-up. Even from the spot of catch and shoot, yeah, that's where New York has like somewhat of a defensive identity. But if they can hit their pull-ups and that type of thing, like, the Sacramento team can probably keep it close. That being said, if no De'Aaron Fox, I think we have to, and again, he might play, but for the sake of this, I do think we lean towards the Knicks. In terms of how these two teams have been playing as of late, Sacramento's playing some good basketball, and I've said I don't really want to get in front of Sacramento. They did just lose to the Nuggets, right, by 9 points, and the Knicks just barely beat Brooklyn in their last game, but the Knicks haven't played in 4 days. This is a team that has a few veterans on there, right? Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, Cal Bridges. They've had a decent sort of rest here, and when they have a rest advantage over their opponent, they've covered in 56% of games this year, so yeah, I'm going to trust the Knicks. I think they're the better offense. I do think Sacramento can keep this close, but if this line was anything like 8.5 or something like that, yeah, I wouldn't mind it, but I've already seen some 5.5s out there. Maybe if it gets to 5, I'm going to lean towards the favorite in this spot. But you could probably tell by the way that I'm even talking about this or breaking it down that, like, there's a strong case to be made for Sacramento, especially because they're playing good basketball. They're 8-2 in their last 10, 5-4-1 against the number. They're 8-2 in terms of hitting overs, which this is a Knicks team that if their defense isn't clicking, they can get scored on, you know what I mean? Like, they've had some wins recently in which, like that Brooklyn game, 99. They scored 99 points and won. I don't think they beat many teams scoring 99 points. So I'm thinking, the offense kind of kicks it into gear in this one. Total wise, give me a slight lean towards the over. I think Sacramento, the number one pace team, has to push the pace to some degree, right? And like I said, they may be able to hit some of those pull-up threes. So targeting guys that shoot those pull-up threes could be an answer as well. So maybe the more I think about it, there could be a look at Malik Monk over 2.5 threes, who, especially if Fox plays, we could get a few more field goal attempts, right? And he hasn't been cashing his threes line. We actually got burned by that when they played, the Warriors, right? But maybe that's a spot to look at, because I feel like I've said pull up a few times in this game, and at some point, where there's smoke, there's fire. All right, because we have so many games, we've had a lot of these examples, games in which we just kind of saw this matchup right now. Cleveland on a back-to-back, and this game was a lot closer than I think people thought last night, right? If we look at the minutes played, let's pull that up really quick just to make sure we get it right. Like, this is supposed to be a Cleveland, blowout of the Sixers, and the Sixers win that game 132 to 129. Cleveland, Jared Allen, 35 minutes. Darius Garland, 32 minutes. Donovan Mitchell, 33 minutes. So some minutes were played by these starters, right? Evan Mobley, now listed as questionable, could be absolutely massive in this spot, right? When we last saw this matchup, which, if you guys don't know how that ended, pretty poorly. Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland specifically, but Donovan Mitchell, I think overall, realistically, a game that neither one of them are all that proud of, right? But when they last played, they didn't have Evan Mobley either. And, Donovan Mitchell, I think it was 7 of 22 from the field, 1 of 8 from 3. He had a really, really bad game. Jared Allen did his thing, double-double, right? Houston had a really good game from Van Fleet, which could be another spot here again today, just based on what we saw happen there. Like, this is a spot in which, Cleveland does have a good perimeter defense, but to point guards recently, they've been allowing a lot of points and a lot of threes. So maybe Van Fleet's a good look again. But overall, I feel like I'm all over the place here, not making much sense. Hopefully Evan Mobley plays, because I do flip this one and look at the Cavs minus the 3.5. You can argue they should have won that last game. That would have been still a cover for Houston, if my math is correct. I don't know. That's too revisionist for me to even dig into. But either way, yeah, I guess it would have been technically by those foul shots being made, 110 to 109. But Cleveland now at home, minus 3.5. They're on a back-to-back, which worries me to some degree, but they've covered in 62.5% of their back-to-back games so far this season. So I'm going to give them a little bit of credit there. I think that they can target this Houston perimeter. I mean, right now in the last 10 games, Houston from above the break averaging a 41% field goal percentage against, which ain't all that great. They've been phenomenal on the season, but that above the break specifically kind of catches my eye here. So yeah, overall, I do think that this could be a spot for, Cleveland to win. Now, you'd probably want to target guys that may be not getting the focus, like in terms of the threes, like if Cleveland's going to make those above the break threes. We saw Donovan Mitchell struggle from 3, right? And this is honestly a Rockets team that isn't the best at, pull up threes, which Donovan Mitchell shoots a ton of, but in terms of defending that, like they're actually kind of decent, I guess. But overall, like I think that there's going to be a lot of focus on the guys, Garland, Mobley if he plays, Mitchell, that we should see a few potential open looks from some of the guys like, Ty Jerome, I think, shot the ball, 7 times from 3 last game. Merrill shot it 6 times. Georges Niang was 2 of 4. So some of these more bench guys that may kind of sit outside on the arc waiting for the defense to collapse, because this is a good Houston defense, may get a few more looks. So we could see if we have lines for those guys as of right now. I'll check. Not sure if we do, but either way, if we can get those as as sort of the lines do end up coming out, maybe something to look at there. Now, sometimes it's the no-names that cash. Sometimes it's the no-names that you're absolutely kicking yourself for, because they're like, why did I bet on a guy that I don't even know where he went to college type of thing. Anyways, I don't mind those guys. In terms of what we have from a player prop a total perspective here, this is sitting at 227. We've talked a lot about the recent game, but the defense definitely did come through, and I expect that to be the case again here today. So I'm going to lean towards the under. Even though I usually flip it, based on the last game, I do think both these defenses are stellar. All right, guys, this has been a long slate. Comment 5, because we have 5 games left. That's different, right? Normally, we're saying, hey, we made it to this minute mark. Comment that, and we have some fun with it. Now it's going to be interesting, because we'll really see if the OGs, if you guys are really listening, because 5, some people might come in here and be like, I know what that number means. I'm going to comment it. But now we have 5 games left. Comment 5. Let me know that you made it to this point in the video. We have another team here on a back-to-back. We actually just talked about them, right? This is the Sixers now, who are coming off of a win against Cleveland. Cleveland, Celtics, all these teams having some really notable losses as of late, huh? But Chicago coming off a loss to Golden State. They got pummeled by them, actually. It was 130 to 105, something like that. In terms of what we have on the injury report, Andre Drummond now listed as probable. Still looking like we're not going to get Embiid, Lowry, or either Martin. On the Chicago side of things, Kobe White already listed as out, so you're gonna get a lot of Lonzo Ball action too, which he's just been a guy that has seemingly said, you know what, I came into this league as a passer. My brother shot a lot of threes. I was a bad shooter. I fixed my jump shot. Fixed, right? I'm just gonna chuck a bunch of threes. So it seems like we're getting that, which could be a spot to target here. As you know, this Philadelphia defense, I really don't trust as much as far as I could throw them. They were, if you could probably rewind earlier in the year, I'd be like, that's where their defensive, I guess, integrity is, right? Like they're not very good in the paint defense, but they've been good on the perimeter. Last 3 games there, no one in the league is allowing more points from 3 than Philadelphia, almost a 40% above the break 3 rate. They're allowing a 57 from the right corner. So if we really want to get specific here, from the right corner, a 57% field goal percentage against from that right corner. Let's see who on the Chicago team takes the right corner threes, just for the sake of it. Whoa, Lonzo Ball. Uh-oh. Did I just speak it into existence? I don't know if we have lines out for him yet either, but maybe, let's see. Lonzo, yeah, we don't have any lines, but maybe that's something we look at. That just kind of like fit like a puzzle piece, right? But overall, this Sixers team is on a back-to-back. You do have Chicago favorites. I think that says a lot here. Chicago is going to shoot a lot of threes, even if they want to get into the paint. Like Vucevic has been pretty damn good as of late. This is not a very good defense in terms of covering the perimeter. And if Andre Drummond plays, I think that helps Vooch kind of stick around the paint more than chasing Yabusele around. So yeah, screw it. I'll lean towards Chicago, the home team, on a back-to-back with rest advantage over their opponent, which they have today. They've covered in 67% of games so far this season. Philadelphia, in no rest situations for them, 33.3% cover rate. On the road, 40.9% cover rate. So nothing really screams Philly to me in this spot. I like Chicago. They're the more healthy team, and I also like Lonzo Ball potentially, which I can't believe that we were saying that. I was almost mocking him, being like, he just started shooting a bunch of threes, and now it's like, oh, we may be looking at him for his threes. What do we have for a total here? Because obviously you have a slow Philadelphia team, but a fast Chicago team. I think the thing that I would probably end up considering in this spot a little bit more would maybe be Chicago team total over. I could see that being the case. Not necessarily loving the idea of Philly, especially on a back-to-back, but Chicago team total over could easily be something that I kind of convince myself of. So we shall see there. That's probably going to be what we end up looking at if we were to touch this total. All right, next, Memphis taking on Utah. Memphis, we've talked about them. They are on a back-to-back here. Ja Morant listed potentially in the starting lineup here, missed last game, so obviously if he plays, in which that number may indicate that he is, especially with that total number there too, I don't mind Memphis saying, okay, well, you know what? Yes, we got the job to some degree done yesterday, but we saw them beat a bad team without Ja Morant by, what did it end up being? It was 139-126. Utah so beaten and bruised. They've lost 4 straight games. Their defense is absolutely horrific. I don't mind Memphis coming in here and saying, all right, let's just get it done again. You know what I mean? In terms of how they will most likely look to score, is what Memphis has been doing is getting into the paint, which has been, weirdly enough, to some degree, a decent spot for Utah defensively. But if Memphis wants to score their threes, which they are a fairly efficient team from 3, this is a terrible, terrible Utah team from deep. So I'm almost waiting this one out to see potentially Ja Morant get ruled in, and then we can maybe target someone like Desmond Bane or someone that's going to shoot the ball a decent amount. You know, over 2.5 threes is a spot that I like for him today, as well as potentially over his 19.5 points, which may seem high, but I don't mind it. But 2.5 threes, he's hit in 4 straight games against Utah. Utah against the shooting guard position, the second most threes on the season, and the third most threes overall, in the last 7 games there. So some decent spots. In terms of where they struggle, it's going to be with the catch-and-shoot threes, so we could definitely see some Desmond Bane catch-and-shoot, especially if Ja Morant's playing, Desmond Bane kind of setting up there. And in fact, if we want to take a peek at who shoots most of those catch-and-shoot threes for this squad, that might be something to peek at here too, in case there's a name that we're missing. So Memphis, catch-and-shoot, guys, that's what I'm targeting, because Utah's perimeter is bad, and they're specifically bad against catch-and-shoot. Catch and shoot, field goal attempts here. Santi Aldama could be a look as well. Interesting. I mean, yeah, he's not going to always have the best percentage, but he's actually in the last 10 games leading the team in those attempts. So maybe there's a spot there if we can get a line for him, but I think it could be a Desmond Bain game because, yes, he's going to have some pull-ups as well, which just kind of adds to his quantity. But give me Memphis. I don't think that we get this one down, to be completely honest, as well as maybe a specific potential lean towards the under. I don't think Utah really has a good path to scoring in this one, in all honesty. Memphis, decent defense in the paint as of late, decent defense when it comes to defending the perimeter. So with all the injuries that we've seen from Utah, Jordan Clarkson, John Collins, I think they should have Sensabaugh in today, and Markkanen and Sexton. So they do have some guys, but I don't really see them having an easy path to score. So yeah, give me Memphis as well as the under, and maybe potentially targeting some of these three-point shooters. Warriors taking on the Lakers. Andrew Wiggins and Gary Payton listed as questionable. You also have Podziemski now listed as questionable. Kyle Anderson also listed as questionable. Kuminga and Draymond out. Now, you have Anthony Davis and LeBron also listed as probable, which they're on the injury report like it is clockwork. In fact, now it's weirder if they're not on the injury report, right? But where do we go in this game? If we want to take a peek at sort of, and we'll use this as an example because it's late in the video. I don't think we're giving anything away that we normally monetize, right? But if we take a peek at this dashboard, you could see Golden State still shooting a ton of threes, right? The Lakers, kind of surprisingly, a decent three-point defense. Now, from a percentage standpoint, not necessarily, but even here, look at their players. Only shooting guards, really. I mean, I guess you could say power forwards, but I don't think we have to worry about who is playing power forward. We just looked at it, right? RotoWire right here. Andrew Wiggins, he's going to try and get to the hoop a little bit more. But nonetheless, point being is that this is a Lakers team that kind of looks like they could stop the Warriors in terms of how they want to play, right? And you have the Lakers who are scoring a lot in the paint. Warriors are good at that, but the Lakers are actually shooting a lot more threes from the corner lately. Warriors not all that tremendous, so this is one where I'm just going to trust the team that's playing better basketball. We're using that dashboard to prove out that I don't think there's this massive edge over a squad, right? And actually, one thing to note, I talked about the Lakers' perimeter defense. See, I got to get used to even looking at this part. Look at this. Catch and shoot offense. This is one of the most efficient and score percentage teams and number one frequency team. Obviously, Steph Curry's in the squad in terms of catch and shoot, right? They're actually pretty damn good. Fourth best in terms of score percentage. So, yeah, I think the Lakers could stop this one. I think I'm starting to look at maybe a Warriors team total under, or even just an under in this game, and potentially looking at the Lakers. Now, the Lakers are definitely not as good of a team on the road. We know that by now, but are we really going to sit here and say this Warriors team has bet anything consistent? Hell no. This Lakers team has at least won 4 of their last 5 games here, 6 of their last 10, and they're coming off a win against Boston. So, yeah, I could consider this. The one thing I will say is that this is the last game of a home stand for them, and then they go on a 3+ game road trip. Warriors, this is the beginning of a long homestand for them, so maybe they feel comfortable. But I'm going to like the under here as well as the Lakers. Player prop wise, again, I start to get a little, I guess, infatuated with that new toy of the dashboard. But, we could see someone like Steph Curry have an under from a shooting night, or Buddy Hield, a big catch and shoot guy for them, right? So what's Buddy Hield's line at as of right now? Let's see if we can find that, because Buddy could just shoot himself out of this, right? 2.5, it's a little bit too low. He has had in his last 3 games, one being this year against the Lakers, 2-1-1 in terms of 3-pointers made. So maybe there is a look for even odds right now, under 2.5. That's tough, but maybe something we consider because, again, we might just be infatuated with the new catch and shoot and pull-up data in our model there and in our dashboard there. All right, Phoenix taking on Washington. Nothing that I'm really liking here. I definitely don't want to lay the 14 with Phoenix, but Washington I don't feel fully trusting in to keep it close. I will say we're going to see a Phoenix team that can score from the mid-range, and that's where Washington really struggles. Washington also allowing the second most assists to the point guard position here. So, a lot of people disagree with it, but when I look at that, I'm really looking, because of the way he plays, Devin Booker. I look at a lot of teams' defenses against the point guard for Devin Booker because he has the ball so much. So maybe a Devin Booker over in points plus assists, but we're talking about a potential blowout spot here. So the only thing I'd really consider is maybe an under. Again, I don't really want to lay the 14, but I can't get myself to the Washington side, so maybe Phoenix if you need a lean from me. But Devin Booker might be the only spot that I look at with blowout potential in mind, though. Probably nothing that we're absolutely loving, right? I think his points and assist line is 33.5. He's hit it in 7 of his last 10 games. Last time he played this Washington team, which was about a week ago, I think it was 10 days, so a little bit less, he had 37 and 5. could be a decent spot for him. Maybe his threes line is a good thing to look at too, because this would then be a spot in which we have, he can hit that in the first half. We don't have to worry about blowout. Maybe that's something of consideration. They're allowing the second most threes per game to opposing players this season. So Devin Booker is kind of where is catching my eye in this one. Pause. Clips, Milwaukee. This is one of the better games on today, right? We have a pretty healthy Clippers team. I mean, Chris Dunn listed as out, but that starting lineup's rocking right now. Harden, Powell, Leonard, Jones, and Zubac in terms of being listed as healthy, right? And then you have Milwaukee. Chris Middleton's probable. Giannis is probable. No AJ Green, which I do think is definitely a factor for them. Like, I think AJ Green gives them that sort of spread. Like, defenders have to respect AJ Green at this point from a shooting perspective. This Milwaukee team just routed Miami, which we almost got to. We just didn't get on totally. And then, the Clippers handled Washington in their last game. So where do we go in this one? I will say this is one of those games where I'm telling someone that, yeah, you can make the argument for either side here. You really can. Milwaukee, who likes to isolate. The Clippers, good isolation defense. Milwaukee likes to take, a lot of pull-up threes, Damian Lillard being the guy. Clippers very good at stopping that. But if you look at how the Clippers like to score in the paint, right? Well, Milwaukee's been a good paint defense. So this is one in which I sit here and I go, okay, I think the defense is maybe better than the offenses. Even with names like James Harden, Damian Lillard, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kawhi Leonard, I think I like the under 224.5. We have this projected as of right now at a 114 to 112 game, so slightly going over, right? If we do factor in any, superb defense, and this is because the Bucks, I think at least they have a recent game in which they allowed a lot of points, right? Am I making this up? They've been scoring a lot of points. I guess that's what it is. I do think that the Bucks maybe return back down to that like 115-ish number as a ceiling. And, if the Clippers do what they do, which is suppress teams do a little bit more, we take that 115, maybe peg the Bucks at like, I don't know, right now, like I said, 112. Maybe we peg them at like 109, and that means we bring the Clippers down 3 more points, so we have a 109-111 game. That sounds good to me, right? I do like the under. Again, I could see why someone's like, why would you ever do that? There's so many good names in this game. True, but there's a lot of good defensive players as well. But overall, I'm going to lean towards Milwaukee. I think that they're kind of turning a little bit of a corner, I guess. And I've been saying that all year long, that at some point this team's going to be one of the threats in the East. Wouldn't be surprised if it comes down to like Milwaukee and the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. Yes, the Celtics have been tough. The Cavs have been good all year, but, it's kind of what's happened in the past too, I guess, right? So yeah, give me Milwaukee plus the points. If this line was flipped, Clippers home, getting a couple points, I think that I would look at the Clippers. So it's razor thin. You can make an argument for either side here. Total, like I said, I'm going to lean towards the under. And then a player prop, like I don't really have much as of right now. I see a lot of reasons to go towards an under, but at that point, you're not even talking about the game under. It's like, do we really have the cojones to drop them on the table and say Giannis Antetokounmpo under, Damian Lillard under? I don't know if we really want to be messing around with that on this fine Saturday, especially with so many games on the board. But if we add anything, we'll add it to the final plays. But guys, appreciate you sticking around for a long time, 40-plus minutes video, I think, so far. So really do appreciate it. And we'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.